Hello, this is my XJW story. It's so much information that has inspired me through the YouTube videos of the within the XJW community, um, different social Facebook groups with the XJW from the XJW community that really helped me. I was so inspired that initially I wasn't planning on sharing my story, but for some reason now I'm inspired to share my story in hopes to help someone else because those videos help to encourage me and keep me on my journey. So I was introduced to Jehovah's Witnesses through my mom as a child. My mom, maybe I was about 8, 9 years old. Jehovah's Witnesses knocked on our door. My mom accepted a Bible study, and from there, is the rest is history. She became baptized shortly a couple of years later. Um, Through that time, I attended the meetings in school, meaning elementary school, junior high school, and high school. I attended the meetings, but I was never um, I wasn't forced to go in the ministry. I never went in the ministry during that time. Fast forward, I now finished high school. Shortly thereafter, I moved out my parents' home into my own place, my own apartment. I became sick um, to the point that the doctors didn't give me a long time to live if I didn't have a procedure or surgery. Came through the surgery. Went Came through the surgery. They called cold blue on me for some reason. They couldn't resuscitate my lungs or something, but I survived them here. Thereafter, I was released from the hospital. My mom encouraged me to come back to Jehovah. Come back to Jehovah. I never left Jehovah, but come back to Jehovah and start a Bible study. I accepted. During that time, I was vulnerable. Um, yeah, I was vulnerable. I had a near death experience in my late teens, early 20s. And growing up, you always hear the affirmation that this is the truth. So in the back of my mind, growing up, I always knew, or at least I thought I knew, that I was going to be a Jehovah's Witness, even though I wasn't ready at that time. So I started a Bible study shortly thereafter. Um, I became baptized. Mind you, let me go back. Growing up, attending the meetings, although I didn't go in the ministry, attending the meetings, it was a lot of things that wasn't adding up. One plus one wasn't equal to two, but because of the affirmation, it's the truth. I accepted it. Studying the Bible, I had questions with my Bible instructor. She kept saying pray on it or research. I'm still not finding the answer, but the affirmation is the truth. So I put my doubts. I placed them in the back of my mind. I thought it was me. Oh, it's just you. My mom said a couple of times that's Satan trying to get to you. Okay, maybe so. Shortly thereafter, getting baptized, I fell into a deep depression. I was so unhappy, and I didn't know why. I can't explain why I was unhappy. I thought that when I became baptized, life will be just peaches and cream, but it wasn't, and that was naive for me to think that as well. But I fell into a depression, and I stopped attending the meetings. I stopped going out in the ministry. I stopped altogether. I was just depressed, and I became more depressed because I felt like I gave up on Jehovah. I dedicated my life to him, and I felt like I wasn't living up to my part of the agreement. Um, I thought it was encouragement. I received encouragement to come back to the meeting from the various friends, air quotes, and my mom. I returned to the meeting, and then I still felt depressed, but I was trying. The elders encouraged me to do more, go out in the ministry more, study more. Uh, you know, if it's it, I was doing all that, but it seemed like it wasn't enough. Throughout this time, I was an active Jehovah's Witness. I became inactive maybe 3 or 4 times, and each of those times it's been years in yearly spans, maybe 1 or 2 years each time. And then I, I think around 2014, about 2014 or so, I started having more questions and more doubts. I went to the elders to get insight. They told me to research it. Note only to research their material, not no one else's on the outside material, only Jehovah's Witnesses material. I researched, still couldn't find my answer. I went to the elderettes within the congregation and the elders' wives to ask them, some of these questions. And I was told, they encouraged me to research as well. I let them know I've researched, but I'm not finding the answer. And I was simply told, don't question the governing body. But that didn't sit well with me. I let it go for a while, but it really didn't sit well with me because this was my life and I had questions. And why can't I get the answers to the questions if it's legit? How can I go on the ministry to talk to people about God's kingdom when I'm not even certain about it or what's going on? The changes that the organization was going through, the teachings has changed, and I didn't fully understand. So how can I be expected to explain it to our neighbors? So I felt like a hypocrite, and that weighed on me. I didn't. I started to think about the setup within the meetings, um, the Watchtower study, the paragraphs. Everything is already there for you. There's no thinking involved with that. And I started saying, they're giving you the answer. They're telling us how to think. And so I had doubts, and and these doubts I began to get frustrated with the doubts that I had because I wasn't receiving the answers, and I was being pushed aside as if I'm not supposed to ask questions. And so I was then labeled for having questions as a troublemaker. I was ostracized within the congregation. I was even labeled as being worldly. This one elder in particular, he came up to me after one meeting. He said, "You're worldly." I said, "Huh?" I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You're worldly." Then I said, "What do you mean again?" He held his head down, had a little smirk on his face, and then left, walked off. I didn't understand it, but I thought about that. I said, we all are worldly. What else do we know? I don't know what made him come to me and say that. At this point, I don't care. But I thought about that. I said, we all are worldly. That's all I know. Well, how do I supposed to be? How do I supposed to act? So it's just a lot of things. But what the crucial part for me opening up my eyes was regarding the teaching in the new light. Every assembly, every convention, there's new light. What happened to the old light? Why did the old light burn out? And so I couldn't get answers. I was told to trust the governing body, and I just didn't feel comfortable with that because this is my life. I'm doing this. I've dedicated my life to Jehovah, and we're using this channel with the governing body to give us direction and spiritual food. But I can't know what's in my food. I can't know the ingredients. What if I'm allergic to something? So it was just so much, and so much with unknown. Don't ask any questions. Just do what I say, and that just wasn't sitting right with me. But this video is getting long, so stay tuned for part 2.